Hi everybody, it's Neil Walters of Neil's Videos again, and I'm playing with the, what do you call it, North Pole stuff that for the contest next week. I'm not putting a whole lot of effort into this, and obviously I'm not getting the results. Some people are. Like, the biggest thing right now is everybody has the bragging rights is you go to the production monitor and you say how many bytes you're making per hour, and some people are like 20 or 40 or something like that. So what I did is I just wanted to practice. So I already had this town up and I already had my gas plant and all that built. So I wasn't going to go build another new town just for practicing, okay? Because it's just a practice game. So, and what I found playing the practice game is I believe the best spot would be a desert mountain where in a mountainside you're going to be able to use the regular mines, and if I remember, I think they're twice as fast as the shallow mines. I'd have to confirm that. And so right now a lot of my mines are actually, again, I think it's the which one is it, the iron ore, the iron that goes into the, so not the iron, what's it called, it is iron, sorry, the iron that goes into the steel that makes the blue steel seems to be my biggest constraint right now. So I have two steel mills here, and the only reason I really have two even is just because one of them could be grabbing his energy and water while the other one is grabbing his iron. I have room for a third one right here, but it would be useless unless I had more mines that were actually creating more iron out of the ground. So let's just talk about like how do we speed different things up, right? So earlier in the game, I had this guy. This is one of the new features of this week is the North Pole Creation Lab. I had it over here on the border, and of course it needs 3 energies. So later in my game, I had like $10–12 million like I do now, and so I built a nuclear plant here and then one here. And the advantage of that is it is providing energy passively to most of the mines across the street from it. And even down here, these mines are getting a little energy from the power plants, but the nuke plant will give you a little bit more energy a little further out than the regular power plants. One thing that kind of killed me earlier in the game is I had a power plant here, and when I built the nuclear plant, I had like a total energy crisis because the power plant was, providing energy to these things here, and then they didn't have it in their power plants, so they had to go get the batteries or the energies from everybody else. So actually, I need to back up and show you how I got to here, right? I usually give you my slides before I show you the actual game. Okay, so see this town I already had pretty much going like this, and I was using again my candy cane shops here for my new fast start. And so I had $467,000 city cash, and I had a little bit of a sugar shortage, so obviously I worked on my sugar. I went ahead and added my bees down here, and the nectar, and the haunted zones or whatever gives me passive nectar for those. And I'm prepping for 2 pottery plants. So right here, you see there is a water pump, and so there's going to be a pottery plant on either side of that. I thought they need paved roads, but apparently they don't. I get confused. It's just like too much stuff to remember. And I guess if you want to be a high quality player, you just kind of have to memorize everything, because otherwise you're just constantly flipping back to the different charts and stuff that are available, right? I would skip over here. That was real early. Okay, sorry. I'm skipping around here. This was a little bit later. So now here's I built 2 of these things, the wizard workshops, okay? Because one of them basically needs to make the glue, and the other one needs to make, what do they call it? The wizard, the mystic something or another, right? And actually, let me show you this as well. Okay, so first I should show you this. This is a mind map I put together. It's just a quick tool. It's easy to use to connect things like this, kind of like a hierarchical chart. And I'm using a website called mindmeister.com. It's free as long as you have under 3 mind maps. If you want more than that, then I think you have to subscribe and pay them a small amount or whatever their cost is. Anyway, I could do this one for free. And so obviously we're building bicycles, our main thing that we want to sell. And that's, I have these little codes here. I just didn't want to spell it all out. SF is Santa's factory. Okay. And then to build one of those, you need one blue steel, one mystic matter, and two of the new lights. And that's in the North Pole, whatever CL stands for. So up here, I made these red because we already know how to build these if you've been around TownStar a while, right? You need blue steel, which is 5 steel, 10 energy, and a uniform. And then to make steel, you need 10 iron, 5 energies, and 3 water drums and a steel mill. A uniform is made in a fabric plant, as our wool yarn is made from wool. In a fabric plant, cotton yarn is made in a fabric plant from cotton. And they all need energy. Oh, you need 3 energy when you make the uniforms as well. Then we have this new thing called mystical matter, which is in the Wizard's Workshop, WW, and it also uses glue. So when you have two things like this, you either have, if you have one entity, one Wizard Workshop, then you have to flip-flop it back and forth. So usually we would create 2 of these at least, right? So that one can flow directly into the other so your game can run all night long or when you're not sitting there watching it. So we're going to need at least 2 Wizard Workshops, right? Mystical matter needs a limestone, 2 cotton yarn, and glue. Now the cotton yarn, you're kind of competing with the uniforms there. And at first I was making too much cotton, too much wool, and even too many uniforms. Now you can sell your uniforms as well. That would be a way to get your city cash at the beginning of the game if you don't do like what I did with the candy canes. Okay, so that is a good way to make some cash perhaps. But now I'm toward the game where I'm trying to tune everything, and I really want to slow my uniforms down so that one uniform gets built every time a blue steel is about ready to be done, right? Because otherwise, I just make extra uniforms and I'm running my workers around the board, and they end up just, the auto sell ends up selling stuff that doesn't need to be sold. So I'm actually optimizing my uniforms right now by putting them on the opposite side of my town, and I'm going to make them go get the energy they need rather than giving them passive energy just to purposely slow them down. Okay, so that's a cool trick that you might need to use to tune your town. The glue needs these 3 things: honeycombs, honey, and clay lumps. So honeycombs, I don't think we've ever had anything yet that we needed it for, and it needs 6 nectar, which is like 3 times, I think, more than regular honey. And the clay lump, I'm getting that right now from one of my zones. And it gets, those zones are so hard to remember which zone 1 is which, and zone 2. Like one of them gives you nectar, and one gives you saltiness. I wish I'd just call it zone salty and zone nectar instead of zone 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just my opinion. And then you need these Christmas lights or whatever they're called. And to do that, you need molten glass. So we're going to use the glass factory that we've used before to make wine bottles, but now they have a new object in there called the molten glass. And to make molten glass, you need 4 silica, 1 limestone, and 2 chromium. So you're going to need a lot of the sand mills or whatever it's called, I think sand mines or whatever to make the silica. And you're going to need mines to make limestone and chromium, which also compete with your iron up here. Where's your iron? Right there, your 10 iron. Well, it doesn't compete, but it's also the same type of mines, right? So if your mines are making iron, they're not making limestone and chromium. So that'll give you an idea how many mines you might need. And a lot of stuff needs energy, as you can see. And so yeah, that's a summary of the mind map. So now let's go back to some of the things I discovered. So to me, playing the game this week, it's just to discover and to learn and find out what you might be able to do better in the next week's game. Why do I have a line on my screen? Okay, so glue needs clay. So I built the second workshop over here, Wizard Workshop. And see, I already had the zone, whatever, let's call it zone X, that was making the clay here. So I wanted that wizard. So these pottery, what are they called? Pottery factories, they need the clay, right? So they're getting it passively, and I made a place now for this magic, or what it's called, Wizard Workshop, to get its clay passively as well. Um, I need wood and lumber, so I stopped my mines and my fabric plants in order to build 10 or so logger houses. So earlier in the game, I just had lumberjacks and I had no logger houses, so that can kind of kill you pretty soon if you don't do that. So I decided, okay, I'm going to stop things that I built and I'm going to go ahead and upgrade all my loggers. It's just so boring for me to do that. It's like, you know, you play over and over again, and every game you're having to update all your loggers to your, you know, the lumberjacks, the loggers. So I put it off just because I was bored and, you know, doing other things. Okay. So I also built 2 farm tractors somewhere. I don't know where they are, but anyway, they're on there, or they're building them. And need to re-add towers to water trees on the second row. So I think I took a water tower off like right here. And the second row, the river gives you 5, 4, 3, etc. So your trees, I think, right now need 5 waters. So these on the second row weren't getting any water unless they were touching the pond here. So I need to put that little tower back. Okay. Next one. That's where we were. Okay, so now I got the wood problem solved. My wood was all of a sudden really pretty good. I had wood and lumber. So wood is great. So I paved all my roads, and I started turning back everything on that I turned off while I was making the logger houses. I built another lumber mill and another fabric plant, and I just show you the arrows there where I did those. No big deal. Okay. Next one, I needed another power plant next to the haunted wing. So down here, this haunted wing provides me all my crude oil. So that's an NFT that I'd purchased before. So that's why you want to be in the desert, so you can get the oil seep if you don't have that thing, right? So desert would be the best place, I think, biome for this game, so that you get the haunted, or get the oil seep, and that way you're going to get passive oil, crude oil, and that way you can put your power plants by it and start generating the energy / batteries, okay? And so I built another power plant somewhere near that, okay? I moved my sugar windmills, but then I had to move the fabric plant. Okay, of course you can't move a building, so I was just showing you here. There's where I put the power plant. That red line is my new power plant. So whatever was there was a fabric plant, so I had to destroy it and move it over here. And then there was a windmill here, so I destroyed that and built one over here. So again, my windmills in this part of the game were only to get me sugar for my candy canes. And again, that's like my new theory of how to do an interesting fast start. I moved that. So I moved my Tesla coil around the lot, just kind of where I needed or playing with it. So I thought if I put it over here, that's going to give that guy 1 out of I think the 2 energies he needs. Then the construction worker will go bring the other one. And by the way, the Tesla coil will also create a battery energy about every 40 seconds. Construction worker will usually carry that to the nearest warehouse. This little warehouse right here, let me draw you an arrow. That warehouse, at first I didn't like to use it. I think it's because, again, there's no easy road to get there. So I think there must be some calculations in the program that says, you know, like find the warehouse that takes me the least seconds to get to. So sometimes, for example, this silicon will go all the way over to this warehouse rather than this warehouse here, even though it's closer, because I guess he has to compute, oh, I got to walk through all this junk right here. So that's my theory of how it works. Not sure. I moved the sugar. Okay. What I moved? Moved Tesla to give passive energy. Okay. Added an iron mine. No big deal. That red arrow there is another iron mine. So I just kept adding mines till, you know, I got as many as I could. 2 ATVs now. And I also needed peppermint fields when I have my candy canes. The nice thing I like about peppermint fields is they make good buffers because they're not affected by dirtiness or pollution, basically. So let me just give you an example. This, like this row here and this row here, forget the arrow, just showing you the rows. Since they're getting pollution or shade from other things, that's a perfect place for peppermints, at least in what I was doing so far. Okay, so then later, I think it was last night, I'd sold 20 bikes, which is my first bicycles or bikes that I had. So now I was making $400,000 for every sale of 10 of those that I did. So I said, well, candy canes are only 220, bikes are 400. So now let's switch to bikes, right? So in this case, the bikes actually create pretty good cash, where other games, sometimes they nerf the price, they lower the price of what gives you the most points. But this week, it looks like the points and the prices are both good for bikes. So I removed all my peppermint, all my sugar, all my windmills, and my candy stores. I started my nuclear power plant here, and I might have mentioned this before, but that was kind of a bad timing to do it because I had a power plant there. And so now all these things that were getting power had no energy, and they had to wait. And see, I needed the steel to build the nuclear plant, and the steel needed energy. So it took a long time to build that nuclear plant. So I should have saved up my steel first and then built the plants, what I should have done. And then when you see, you saw the final game, I ended up with another nuclear plant over here, and it went much smoother. Going to build probably 2 more shallow mines. I think I ended up building 3 or 4 by now. Lumber shortage. I had to re-add the lumber mill that I had removed. I added another new sand mine. We'll get energy from the nuke when done. I think is that one there. But anyway, let's moving on. Oh, that's where I was talking about. Should have saved my steel. I think we did that one already. So then glue was my constraint. So I kept playing around with this down here. I went through several iterations. Um, I don't know if you've been watching my prior videos. I had this one game once where my mines over here were having to walk all the way down to this area to get their lumber. And what was happening was like for instance, the fabric plants or something else I had down here would always get the lumber first. So the miners are kind of slow, and by the time they would walk over here, the lumber would be gone. And so I think that same exact theory applies to the bees, because the beekeepers are kind of small and slow, and if they have to walk all the way over here to get a lumber, that lumber might be gone by the time they get there, and so they just kind of walk back and forth sometimes and don't get the lumber they need. So one theory I had was, well, I'm going to go ahead and build them their own lumber mill down here and their own storage. And I don't know if that's a great idea or not. Obviously better it would have been perhaps, and that's why, again, practice the game. I think next time I'll build my bees over here more by the industrial complex, so they'll be just closer to the natural lumber, right? I just need to double check on all the, like, does the pollution affect bees and that kind of stuff. It's just kind of mind-boggling what affects what and so on. So originally I put the bees down here in the lower left corner so they wouldn't be affected by anything, right? But anyhow, I'm also probably wasting water because I don't think they need water, and I put them by the river, right? So they are slow to get lumber. I built them their own lumber mill, but it has no water, no energy, so it's kind of slow. I added another bee worker near to one of the main lumber yards. So let me show you that. It's right here. So I was thinking, well, if I put the worker there, he'll see that there's a lumber available, and then he'll just walk over there and get it, and then he'll take it over to these guys. So that could be the other solution, is just put your beekeepers closer to a lumber yard, even if they're far away from your bees. Just thinking about it. Building 1 or 2 pottery houses. Building 1 or 2 pottery hours, I should say houses, for more ceramic bowls. So right here, draw an arrow. This is my new pottery house. And then later I actually built one right here, but then I think I overbuilt. I don't think I need that many. So I did build a water pump here so the pottery would get the water, but it's still going to need to go travel to get energy. I did put in the forklift. Originally I had my forklift right here, but it was causing pollution on the pottery house. So the pottery house was red timer, and so I moved destroyed and rebuilt the forklift here. And forklift is just a construction worker that's faster, basically. So how do you find your constraints or your bottlenecks, basically? So you kind of can start at the end items over here. I kind of have to turn the town so you can see my little North Santa's workshop, whatever it's called, Santa's factory. So you can see right now he's waiting on blue steel. So right now that is my biggest issue in this current town. So I realize now next time I build a town, I'm going to have to be more steel conscious, right? So that's why I think I need a mountain so that I can get all my mines working faster, basically. Then this guy here, for a while he was waiting on cotton, okay? And the reason he was waiting on cotton was I was running my fabric plants over here, and even the uniforms. I was just cranking out uniforms pretty fast. You can see over here I have 11 uniforms. So until I have 11 blue steels, I don't need 11 uniforms, right? Or until I'm making the 11 blue steels. So here's what I did. This just happened while we were talking. So over here I put the fabric plant, and now I'm going to make the uniforms over here. And that poor lady's going to have to walk all the way across the page or the town here to get her 3 energies, which the other fabric plants don't need energy. They need 1 for like cotton or wool or whatever, okay? But uniforms need 3. So by putting it over here, she's going to have to walk and get 3 energies. And this was my original one now. I can destroy it, maybe put a mine there, something else, right? Another iron mine maybe. And by the way, I was playing today, all my skins disappeared. So I didn't even notice that. So without all my Miranda skins on there, some things were not running as fast as they should be. And by the way, I've learned a little more. I'm still going to do a video about frames per second. But, okay, so this is going to take a little explanation. I did buy a new laptop. I think I told you guys that. But I'm running remote desktop. And so I'm going to have to do a picture of my home environment here. I have like 5 or 6 PCs on these desks, all laptops. And I use a switch, a KVM switch, to switch between 4 of them. It only has 4 inputs. So now I'm using remote desktop to get to the other machines. And I'm only buying Windows 11 Professional now so that I can Windows desktop from one computer to the other and still use one keyboard and mouse in the middle. But what I found out was, and I should have known this, the remote desktop had a limit, they say, of about 30 frames per second. And what you just see right here, that's because this is not a TownStar issue. I was tuning my frames per second. Hang on a sec, let me fix it. I'm just going to close my remote desktop and restart it. We're back to normal. So it's Remote Desktop Protocol, or RDP. Looks like I lost some of my resolution now, too. It looks like a little fuzzier. Change that. Oh, graphics. Oh, maybe it's just tuning in. But anyway, so they said on some blog that RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol, you can only get 30 frames per second, and you can see here I'm getting 21. If I close, actually what I have to do is I can back out of the game here, go to my same laptop it's running on now, where I have another browser, which is not in the remote desktop, right? And then I open that, and then my game reopens. It's just kind of a pain to do that. And then when I run it on that laptop, I get about 50 to 60 frames per second. So I think that's going to help me quite a bit. So every time I'm running on this machine to either speed up it's more convenient with my cursor and my keyboard and all that kind of stuff, and switching between the work I'm doing at home and all that. So it's still not exactly what I want. But I found a blog that showed you supposedly how you could get higher FPS, frames per second, in Remote Desktop Protocol. And so you have to go into group policies and change things and reboot your machine. And I did all that. And it took like an hour, and it still didn't do nothing. So my RDP remote desktop still has the slower frames per second, but it sure makes making the video easier to show you, because I'm running my video software on this laptop, which is on the outside of this remote desktop that you're seeing now. Like, this is my regular desktop, right? Okay, that was a little side show. I don't know if you found that interesting. Before I got off on that tangent, we were talking about how this guy was making the mystical matter, or whatever it's called, was needing more cotton. And cotton was, for a while, my issue there. And that was slowing me down. And then this one, like I said, is making glue because it needs the clay. And it seems like I've always got honey, but never enough honeycombs. And I'm still surprised at that because here I have 1 honey and I have 2 honeycombs. So you would think I would be piling up the honeycombs in here more than I would the honey. But my only guess is whoever is closer to the lumber over here gets it faster, but those aren't really any closer. So if you're getting ideas on that, please send me a chat in the comments. The other thing is my roads are horrible here. I mean, this was not a well-designed town. Like how I have this stupid space over here, definitely not well-designed. But again, I just didn't want to rebuild a town from scratch. You know, one more dumb thing back here. I don't think I needed that nectar there. I thought at first this was only going to get 4 or 5 nectars, but I guess he's getting 6. So I think this zone gave me a lot more nectar than I expected him to. If you look at what's in the warehouses, it's just kind of crazy how they get all mixed up, right? Like this silica mine over here sometimes will deliver its silica to this warehouse, sometimes to the one over here. That one's kind of empty right now. I have way too much limestone, and I'm having trouble getting enough chromium too, but that's not my biggest constraint. Over here you can see there's, okay, now I have 10 wool. So I did get rid of all the sheep pens except 1 because I was making way too much wool. And again, I was trying to lower the amount of uniforms I needed. I think 1 sheep pen is going to be fine. So that freed me up some more space to play with over here. I think right now I have 3 cotton fields, and that seems to be pretty good. I went down to 2 for a while. See, I only have 1 cotton in my silo, but it seems like they're keeping up, I think. Let's check this warehouse over here. Originally, he had all the energy in it, so I was making energy from like these power plants, and that would go there. But now I have this guy, the nuclear is making energy, and I think 1 of these power plants is. I turned the others off because I had too much energy then for a while. And I do have my Tesla coil making energy right now. And the reason is, see how that worker carries it to that warehouse? So as long as that warehouse isn't full, he drops it there. And then I'm hoping that the lumber mill, when he needs his energy, will go grab it from there instead of having to walk all the way over here. So generally that works, except see what happens now. That dumb fabric plant stole it. So she grabbed it, and now my poor lumber mill is not going to get that specific energy. So can't win for losing, right? Well, all these trees in the middle here, they're all red, but I just had space there, so I figured a red tree that's slow is better than an empty space, right? So in my final city, I might need 3 steel mills, and I had room for 1 right here. I was saving it just in case. You can see I've got the sand mine here, so it gets the energy, the lumber mill, so it gets the water and the energy. These are water pumps. That's one thing I don't like about the Miranda skins. I only bought them because of the speed thing. I think they make the shapes confusing. So I have 5 water pumps, or what do you call it, water facilities right now. And you can see my water is staying around 20. And I think I do sell it if it gets up to 30. So I don't want too much water, obviously. Check. See over here, like how much water we're actually making too, just like anything, right? So maybe I have too much water right now. I need to think about that. But right now, my bikes are on like 3 per hour. And like I said, I know other people seem to be saying they're getting 20 or 40. So I'm obviously not the best player. I had a silica mine here, but I think I was getting too much silica. See, I have 50. I think that's silica there. I wish you could click on this and it would tell you what it is, because I get mixed up. There we go again. That actually doesn't happen very often. Maybe because I'm making the video, it's worse. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to get rid of this and this. I think I'll put two more mines here. See if I can maybe have more iron coming in. And that's probably all I'm going to mess with this. I may again do the competition next week. Like I said, the NFT ones excite me more than the money ones, at least with the price of Gala right now. But I guess it's just kind of fun, the camaraderie and the discussion and all that. But it's just so many hours to play this. And that's something I was going to talk. I talk about this on and off, but let me talk about it here. Like I never bought an Xbox or a PlayStation. And the reason was I always thought it's more important to invest in yourself, to improve yourself in life, right? So, there's different things you could do in life, like get certifications. Like I'm a computer guy, right? We can always get more certifications. You can start your own business part time. And I have several businesses too. And by the way, I'm doing a Hebrew course starting in January. If you're interested in Hebrew, put a note below the video and I'll send you the link for that, or I'll put it in under the link of this video. I have a current Hebrew class going on. It's biblical Hebrew, and we can teach you the alphabet, and you need to start that now if you're going to do the alphabet, because when we start in January, it's going to be like diving into chapter 1 of the Hebrew text. It's like a college level text. So that's my new little project I've been working on. And so when you're doing all those things, who has time to play games, right? But since I'm into crypto and I got founder nodes with Gala, it's also important to, participate with Gala and help further the infrastructure and get more people interested in Gala. Because if more people played TownStar and all these other games, it's going to be a better world for the Gala ecosystem. And I think it's going to help us all in the long run. So that's one reason I do it. Now, it is fun, but on the other hand, it's just sometimes terribly frustrating, right? You have so many hours when they give you these new things and you got to go build your new cities and play with it and tweak them and so on. But I think you can learn a lot from this game. And I think I got another video coming soon I'm going to do about life lessons from TownStar. I think that's going to be kind of interesting. Because believe it or not, you can actually learn some business lessons from this game. And I'll give you one hint of that. When I was getting my master's degree in 1980, we did a business simulation in a class, and I think we were still using punch cards, heaven forbid, back then. But like we were competing with each other, and we had businesses, and we had to, I don't know, pick what product we were going to sell and build our kind of like factories. I can't remember much about it, but again, that was like 40 years ago, right? And so business simulations games have been around for a while, and our professor thought that would be good for us to learn how to do that. I think it was a class in what was called simulation or simulation theory or something like that. So anyway, that's what I've learned this week about this kind of Christmas rush and building bicycles. Hope that's useful to you. I do appreciate your comments, good or bad, constructive criticism, of course, what I can do better next week. And we'll see you in the next video. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.